No way we wouldn't
I am ready.
Why do that? Why do that? Computer, why do that? Uploading 6 files to Bruno. There you go.
By the way, you can hear it on the stream.
What?
Like everything.
You can hear us?
everything else.
That's exciting. Why is that happening? Welcome along to... Is that working? Why is it not working? There we go. Welcome along to our 4th pre-session campaign episode with Bruno, the wonderful Bruno. Bruno, tell us a little bit about your character and who you'll be playing today.
Hey guys, so today I'm going to be playing Natasha Ayelet. She is a relatively young human female. She is lawful good, so she's very obedient to the law. She doesn't want to cross any lines except for the lines of fate that her parents have set for her. She was brought up to be an innkeeper, but she decided that maybe that wasn't entirely what she wanted to do, and she took an interest in medicine, more particularly in being a midwife. And that's where we find Natasha today, learning how to be a midwife while still tending to her parents' wishes and dreams. This is a great time to tell you that I can't hear you. Hello. Oh, okay, it's not just me.
Yeah.
I'll read your lips and I'll be both DM and player. So just speak very slowly for me. James is laughing right now. Oh,
I'm not moving.
I can
Hello.
I can hear you.
Yeah. So basically, guys, you guys can't hear anything, but right now I've got the loudest fucking feedback in my head ever. There we go. Brilliant. Hello?
Hello.
Cool. I can hear you. You can hear
Hello.
me. Beautiful. Let's roll. Yeah, I just had the most disgusting feedback in my head that was like deafening. So I'm assuming we got as far as Bruno explaining his character. So I will continue from there. We start in the lovely town of Sandringham. This is in the north of Georgetown, not far from the city of Harbondon and the border with Yukon. Sandringham is a little bit of a sleepy village. There's about 150 residents here. And at the centre of the town is the Traveller's Rest Inn. Natasha Ayelet was born to the owners of said tavern. Ooh, let's bring that open. Your parents' names are? Cool. Tester there.
My parents' names are in my backstory.
I know. It's loading. It's loading. He's getting there. He's getting there. His parents' names are Harim and Telia. Harim and Telia are the innkeepers, and it's fair to say that at about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, they're both present and getting the inn all ready and going. However, Natasha is also doing some chores in the inn, and perhaps at this particular moment she'd be sweeping in the main common room. The inn is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but at the moment it's fairly empty. However, moments after I say that, a man bursts in who you recognise to be Jonas. Jonas lives a couple of doors down. His father is a farmer. And he's recently got married. And he's got married to Dahlia. It was a rushed marriage. One might say that it was a forced marriage by the parents after a particular accident that happened about 8 months, 3.5 weeks ago. And so, as Jonas bursts in, is Natasha here? Is Natasha here? And he looks over. Natasha, you're needed. You're needed. Can I bring her in?
1 second. It's Jonas and who else?
Dahlia.
Sorry, I'm gonna take notes about NPCs.
Oh, I'll give you the notes afterwards if you want. It's I think it's sort of half-hour session. So basically, Dahlia and Jonas are the only names you're gonna need. So
So she'd be eating some like mashed potatoes,
Mhm.
which I have a prop for. Oh, this is felt.
Is it good?
It's pretty good.
Did mummy cook it?
Yeah, let's say that. More like daddy. um, oh, she'd be about to put a piece of food in her mouth, and then she'd look up, immediately put it down, and clean her hands. What's going on then? What's happening?
Um, he sort of gestures and then just opens the door.
Is it the baby?
And in a wheelbarrow is Dahlia being pushed by Jonas's father. And without further ado, they wheel her straight into the common room. Your mother sort of looks up and, really? And, where's Beren? You would know Beren as the healer, the local healer, who sort of probably takes the majority of responsibility for births right now. But Jonathan's around, and Beren's gone to pick up supplies from Harbondon. The baby wasn't meant to come for another week. Or so they said. And then with that, Jonas's father just sort of tips Dahlia out and takes his wheelbarrow and leaves. Lying in the middle of the floor, we have Dahlia, fully pregnant, in slight pain and in labour pains. She's screaming away. And Jonas sort of, well, Natasha, are you going to do something?
Yeah, I'm gonna stand up. I'm gonna shout at Jonas, quickly grab me some pillows from the seats, and I'll, Mum, grab me some alcohol.
Your mum pours a tankard of ale, brings it over, and she sort of holds it out. And is this for him?
No, I'll dip my hands in it and like wash them out, and then like clean them in my apron.
With beer, brilliant, love it. Your father comes down from upstairs with
He's gonna get water anywhere.
with two large bed sheets, two pillows, and sort of lays them out across the floor. And then he runs outside, and shortly afterwards returns with a large pail of water, which he places next to you. And do you need some of this heated up?
Yes, please, and I'll wash my hands with the water now that I have it.
He goes and takes a little sort of ewer's worth of water and places it over the fire. And he then sort of stands at the bar. If you imagine the Dahlia is laid out in front of the... Why do we not have the bar on the screen? Let's do that. That would make a lot more sense, wouldn't it? So yeah, with the bar out like this, Dahlia is laid in front of the bar. Your father is standing at the bar looking the opposite direction to Dahlia, resolutely. Sort of, he's got his arms crossed and he's just sort of back to it. He doesn't want anything to do with this, but he is on hand if you need. Your mother has just left for the kitchen to bake today's food and really has no interest in either of them. You're the midwife. What's the plan?
Gee, I'm sure glad that my parents fully support all of my decisions, and I'm totally not angry at them. But there's things I need to focus on right now. All right, Jonah, just massage her temples. It will help her relax. And Dahlia, I'll grab her hand and I'll like squeeze it. You just gonna have to push. You just push, and I'll be here to support you through it.
She sort of gestures for you to come a little closer, and she whispers in your ear, "I've still got my pantaloons on." And then you look at Jonas, and he's trying to massage her temples with one hand while drinking the beer with the other.
What are you doing, Jonah?
I'm panicking here, please.
You don't need to drink at this point. That's the reason your child came to be in the first place.
He slams it down on the side table, and he begins to continue massaging her temples, and she's like, "Ow, that hurts!" But he just carries on as you go.
Gentle massages, Jonah.
You see him looking very stiff and just doing this and trying not to look. I'm assuming that you are assisting her in removing her pantaloons.
Yes, I will assist her in removing the pantaloons.
As soon as you put your hands on them, you realise they're wet. This is coming pretty quick. But as all good farm girls do, she pushes, screams, and I'm pretty sure Natasha will manage. Give me a medicine check with advantage, please.
So the first is a 19.
Ooh.
And the second is a 16.
Fucking baby's coming out with full air on its head talking at that rate. So as the hours progress, Jonas seems to spontaneously vanish at approximately the same moment that the head crowns. And your father takes a moment to pop out of the kitchen. get himself something stiff to drink and returns. He's being as helpful as he can while keeping his back to Dahlia at all times. Your mother comes out, takes one look at her. She seems to be alright. Wanders back into the kitchen. And yeah, Natasha manages quite well. It's a little bit messy, but that's what births are like. The stone flooring is probably not ideal for a pregnant woman, but we manage. And just as you're taking the baby all the way out and cutting the cord, and handing it to its mother, the baby is a boy. And she looks at it and... Oscar. She takes it close. The inn door opens, and there in the doorway is Baron, the healer. Looks over at you and... Roll for gender. I'm done. I'm out. Fucking hell, Kira.
What's the gender?
It's male. I said that. It's a boy. It's called Oscar. But, maybe I should have rolled for gender. Anyway, Baron comes in and he sees the baby and the mother and you, and he ushers in Jonah from outside. Well, your first solo birth. Well, human. How did you find it?
Joe? Today I have learned a very important lesson. When you need men the most, they will never be there.
Ah, yes, well, that much is true. Especially relevant to midwifery. Most of the time, when I have a husband to the wife, I send them out to do something practical and useful, like chop wood. You don't want the husband near. But we did well on keeping this one at least somewhat in the area. I'm surprised he stuck around for the 9 months, to be honest. And as Dahlia sort of leans up to talking, quiet girl, the healers are talking. You look after the baby. He takes a little look at the baby. You see him sort of open its eyes and open its mouth and run over its hands and legs, and it makes a little giggle, and he pokes it in the belly, and it's healthy. He's healthy. What do we call it? Oscar. Manageable, serviceable. Very good. Well, I'll come and check up on you in 4 weeks, Dahlia. See if you're pregnant again. He sort of nods to her.
That's not in character.
Very good. And then he looks at you and... Natasha, I think perhaps we should have a conversation. You're most inconvenient. Can you stand, girl? Dahlia sort of looks up at him. I think so. And then he takes his hand and he puts it on her wrist. And you notice as he does so, her face sort of calms. You see that maybe some of her pain has been drawn away.
Is that the, calm emotion spell?
No, this is no magic, Joe. This is a pressure point. And he shows you how he's sort of gripping her hand, and it's leaving like almost a minor bruise. But it's a good way of taking pain away. No, but that is what I'd like to talk to you about. And then he sort of stands her up, and baby in arm, and he picks up the bedsheet complete with blood and everything. He sort of folds it all into one, dunks it in the water pot on top of the fire, which is probably the best place to clean it, to be fair. He's certainly... Baron's a bit slapdash, but he's efficient. And he leads the mother out, where her father-in-law is standing with the wheelbarrow. He looks kind of conveniently, and not a bad idea. And then he sort of picks up Dahlia and just plonks her in the wheelchair, and in the wheelchair, same thing. Yeah, take her home, give her a good glass of whiskey, and she'll be absolutely fine.
She shouldn't really be drinking.
Oh, of course she should. She's just given birth. It's a celebration. Besides, it strengthens the milk.
Okay.
You got to remember, this is old age medicine. No one does anything sensible. Whiskey is both anesthetic and cure.
That's why she's just quiet. She's not going to argue with that.
So maybe we might take a seat out here, and he sort of gestures for you to sit down outside of the inn, on one of the outside tables. And Natasha, you're doing well as a healer, as a midwife, but there is an element of healing that I can't teach you. Many healers go on to practice a magic to follow a god as a priest, and to thus be granted divine magics. This was not my path. I've always been a practical healer. I've got a good understanding of the anatomy in the body, and thus I am able to perform adequate duties in a small village like this. But especially when it comes to midwifery, I think perhaps you should take an oath. I've brought a sheet here, and he gestures to the piece of paper, and I've outlined a few of the temples in Harbondon that might be appropriate for you. The first here is Shauntia. Shauntia is the goddess of life, but she's a little bit of a harsh mistress. The rural folk tend to conform to her, but personally not a big fan. There's Cirillali, typically a halfling goddess, but she's the goddess of home and hearth and life, and birth as well to an extent, but my personal choice for you would be Lathander. Lathander is the god of birth, of renewal, of life, of beginnings. It's like he's a gentle god, a welcoming god. He brings light to the world. There is a temple to him in Harbondon. I think perhaps it might be time to go and make your oath, if your parents would accept that. Or perhaps even if they wouldn't.
Well, that do sound lovely, sir, but I don't really fashion myself into traveling by myself to Harbondon.
No, I was suggesting that perhaps we went with the merchants. Perhaps in the morning or perhaps next week if you need some time.
But that does sound that it's quite a lot of responsibility to swear myself to a god, and I'm still figuring everything out. I don't think that's the right path for me.
You don't have to make the declaration and oath there and then, but you should at least visit the temple. They can show you some of what they can do, and why, and how, and the healing they perform is nothing like you've seen me do. They bring people back from the brink of death, even from death itself.
Well, I have been raising quite a bit on Lathander, so maybe it would be nice to do some sort of trip to study, like a study trip. Alright, I suppose a trip to Harbondon is on its way, and haven't been in a few months, I've saved some money, so let's do it.
Okay, we'll go via the crossroads. There's somebody I'd like you to meet there.
Okay.
I'll see you in the morning.
Good evening, sir.
And he strides off, leaving you to your own devices and your own thoughts. What are Natasha's thoughts right now?
So, she has a place outside of the village that isn't too deep into the woods, just deep enough where she can't really hear the village, but not deep enough where she would be in peril, or a place where she couldn't run away from. And I think she would just kind of sit there by the spinning wheel and just look at the water and kind of reflect and think about what happened today. Think about what she achieved today, bringing a new baby. And I think as well she'd feel a bit angry about the certain patronizing and the disregard that people had for Dahlia. They just kind of saw they spoke of her and treated her as just a nuisance, and that's not why she became a midwife. She became a midwife because she believes everyone should have the same opportunity to do what they want, and that's why she wants to help people give birth, to make sure that everyone starts off the same equally. So the way that the mother was treated didn't really sit right with her, but she's also angry at herself because she just didn't have it in her to speak up. And I think looking at the water and like seeing how the water keeps moving, she kind of reflects on that.
We'll leave her reflecting, and we shall pick up in the morning, as a trip to town is on the cards. It's approximately 7 a.m. and there is a cart waiting outside the Traveller's Rest Inn. You notice that there are a few people who will also be traveling to town. Some of these are passing merchants, some of these are locals going into the shops. The majority of these will stop at the markets in the crossroads and then return thus the same way, which is a one-day trip, as opposed to Hubon, which is overnight. Baron sits on the side on his own cart, gestures for you to scamper up and sit by his side as you guys are able to travel down to the crossroads.
I'll sit next to him, and so you can see that she's very uncomfortable doing this, but she's kind of like tying and braiding her hair back. It doesn't look too good. It looks, kind of like someone just twisted the hair and then like tied the knot around it. And if she catches, is it Baron's eye?
Baron.
If she catches Baron's eye, she'll just say, "What? If we're traveling, I at least want to look presentable."
It's the crossroads. It's the markets. Don't worry about it. Everybody looks a mess there. But we let the cart pass down the road, and after 4 or 5 hours, you reach the crossroads. The crossroads is, well, I mean, it's mayhem incarnate. As you arrive, the carts are put in with with Phalion, who is the sort of animal master there, and Baron sort of takes you by the elbow and let's make a quick escape before we get run over here by the merchants eager to get to their wares. And he pulls you away and leads you to a purple tent, a tall purple tent with golden stars upon it. Standing outside this tent is a man in full plate mail armor. This is something that you never see outside of the cities. He has a large sword on his back and a smaller sword at his hip. And he has a crossbow on his left hip. He's got a cloak that's pulled back and it's very neat and it's in dark purple. A very serious face. And he looks up and, Master Baron, you're here to pick up the potions, I assume. She's not seeing anybody at the moment. Please, go straight in. And the tent front is pulled away, and you're led inside.
Oh, I'll be like, am I allowed inside?
Please.
Speaking to me?
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you.
As you go in, you see a woman. Her eyes are almost entirely blue and glazed over. She's not looking at you. She's looking at the side of the tent to the right as you enter. Ah, Master Baron. You bring a sprat with you. A young girl? Natasha, is it? Midwife.
Yeah, that's
midwife
me.
in training. On your way to the big city, girl? Not committed to a god yet, but definitely a healer of some sorts, no?
I'd like to think I am, but I don't want to, overestimate my skill.
No, don't do that. You have little of it. But perhaps in time. Well, I suppose you don't know who I am, do you?
No, but thank you for welcoming me in your tent. It's very beautiful.
Sure. My name's Yagra. Some call me the Hag. Some call me the Healer. Some call me the Blind Bat. Anybody who's sensible does so well out of my hearing. I'm a healer of sorts. Make potions, cure ailments. Sometimes I employ magic to help others. Most of my apprentices make potions, though. However, I am acquainted with a woman at the Temple of Lathander. That is the god that you most find that your views coincide with, is it not?
Well, he's just the one I read the most about. I don't know much about the other gods, to be completely frank with you.
Oh, nice.
The gods are all arrogant assholes, but Lathander's probably the best of the bad bunch. Certainly for the human gods. But his clergy are good people. You'll find Penelope at the Temple of the Thunder in Harbondon. She is also an excellent potion maker, well, by human standards. From this comment, you may garner that she is not human, but certainly she doesn't give any hint as to what she might be.
And when she says that, I kind of double think it as well, but I don't want to ask because I think I'm a bit afraid of asking.
Yep, rightly so. She sort of just continues brusquely. Anyway, she's tolerable enough as she is. Also, devoted to her god. She's a healer of somewhat adequate level. But more importantly, she's a gentle soul, and she'll take you around the temple, show you about a bit. Anyway, make yourself useful, girl. There's some tea brewing just behind me. Go on, there's a cup on the side over there, and she points. Get me a tea, and
He dies.
as a good sprat does. Mouth closed, ears open. And she gestures to Baron. Come here, young boy. Baron is in his 50s. Late 50s, but she treats him like a 5-year-old. Come on then. Come here. Kneel down, let me have a look at you. And as he kneels, she puts her hand to the back of his neck. She still hasn't looked directly at him at any point. Still ailing you, is it? So, because you spent half your time with your head in a book and the other half looking down at patients. Shouldn't be so tall, man. That's why you're hurting. Maybe lose a few inches. You'll be fine. But the nettle brew tea is in the box over there. On the right, second shelf up. And the potions are in a sack by the door. Your girl can carry them. Is she yours, apprentice of some sort? Looks... no, ma'am. I've taught her a little bit, but she's not built for the arts that I practice. She looks at him. No, if you are, it's because they're fucking useless. Well, never mind. You look after that village well enough, I guess. Until they have to come to me for their ales. That reminds me, there is a wax in the bag. Make sure Meg Garland gets it. He thinks it's curing his backache. It's curing his other problem, that's for sure. Well, anyway, quit gawping, girl. As you're standing behind her, she sort of directs that at you.
Yeah, so I'll kind of like, I'll be very attentively paying attention to everything she's saying, because you can visibly tell by Natasha's face, she's quite amazed at, the way she presents herself. And when she says that, she'll kind of jump up and say, yes, ma'am.
Nice.
And she'll proceed to, procure the ingredients. But does she have like exotic magical ingredients here?
No,
she has lots of exotic magical ingredients, but the tea is actually in a pot over the kettle. In a pot over the fire, even. And her cup she's gestured towards, so you can just sort of pour it in.
Natasha would be quite curious to just, look. She wouldn't touch anything or even approach it, but, it does catch her eye, and she does, like, lean in for a second too many.
Across the shelves, you see most of them dried. You see mushrooms, you see unusual red plants and leaves. You see sort of harvested parts of animals. But you also see some things that are particularly standard to you. You recognize these even from your mother's brewing. There's barley, there's wheat, there's rye, there's definitely some yeast, some sort of sour mash. Lots of things that you would sort of expect to see in a kitchen pantry, not in a healer's tent. There's also mint and elderberry, basil and thyme, rosemary. Next to things you've never seen before and unusual teeth of animals and mortars and pestles and all sorts. The woman is clearly blind. She obviously can't see anything with her eyes. However, she clearly sees enough without her eyes. And once you hand her the tea, she'll sort of carry on with Baron, and she's reeling off instructions on various people within Sandringham. And although she acts like he's an idiot and she doesn't care, she clearly both cares and respects his ability as a healer. She's mentioning sort of which potions have been brewed for who. Something that might take your interest is sort of halfway through, she starts mentioning that she has an ulcer treatment for a cow in there. There is something to stop the colic of the horse, of Master Kelvin's horse, the ranger. So she's curing the animals and the humans. And she then mentions, I see you're going to Harbondon. Well, in that case, up on the top shelf over there, you'll find a singular It's a bottle. It's got golden liquid in it, and Baron sort of spries up and takes it down. And careful with that. It's worth a fortune. If you would drop this off, please. Sorry. Wrong note. There we go. That's for Engar. If you wouldn't mind taking it to him and tell him to lay off the alcohol. It's a far better cure for alcoholicism than this, but nevertheless. Well, you best be off. Is this, it's not your first time in the big city, is it, Gil?
I've been a few times, but it's been very scarf. I just can't afford it.
No, it's, overpriced, full of crass idiots and sickness and noise and people without enough respect for their elders. But there are some interesting people within the city too. The guilds are worth a visit. I myself don't belong to a single guild, but they know well enough to respect the aggro, and they all come and ask my advice at some time or other. The mages, the mystici, healers, the temples. You perhaps... How old do you go? 19? 20?
I'm turning 22 this year, ma'am.
Oh, getting old by human standards. You'll be dead soon enough. You better get on with something in your life. You're not going to be an innkeeper's girl for the rest of your life, are you?
And you can see that this question has kind of struck her quite, you know. She's not a woman of many words, but now but even less words.
No, I didn't think so. Go on, spit it out. It helps to talk. I'm blind, I can't see your face.
I think I want to become a better healer, ma'am.
Good. That's a worthy cause in life. Take your vows. Even if you change God later on. Down the line, if you realise that perhaps it's not for you, take your vows in the first place. You'll have no magics to your name until you take your vows. You're not arcane gifted, are you? She sort of prods you in the arm, grabbing your elbow, and she pulls you close and puts her finger to your temple. No, not gifted in the slightest. And then she pushes you back again. You're perfectly suited for the divine arts. Take your oath. It'll do you some good.
Is magic really necessary? I just want to help people.
Yes, but it's one thing, putting a bandage on a wound. It's another putting your hand on somebody's leg and mending a broken leg. Yes, magic is most certainly necessary in the healing arts. Besides, it lets you do things like this. And at this moment, she sort of gestures towards Beren, and he immediately stands up and rises slightly off the ground. Convenient, no? It's good for getting husbands out the way while you're delivering babies. She lets Beren drop, and he sort of just nods to her.
Audible gulp.
It's very useful. It also lets you protect yourself. A woman like you needs to protect herself. Especially if she's going to go travelling. You are going travelling, aren't you? At some point. You're not staying in that dead-end village, are you?
Oh, no, I love my village. I'm probably going to stay there for the rest of my life. It's the place where I grew up. It's the place where my family lives. All my friends.
Disappointing.
So I just built a death cap.
Nevertheless, I would take the vows either way. They will help you. But that's, just an old woman telling you what to do. Anyway. When you meet the satyr on the road, speed up. And with that, she gestures for you to leave. Both of you.
You can tell Natasha's like, I mean, Baron can see this, Yara can't, but Natasha's like kind of moving very awkwardly, like even mechanically, because she doesn't know what to do. So she'll just bow and say, thank you, ma'am, for the advice. Thank you.
Yes.
And when we leave, I do want to speak with Baron for a second.
Yeah, well, he's gonna sort of usher you back to the cart and put the stores on, and during this process, you may talk.
I didn't want to ask this inside because I didn't want to disrespect Yagra in any way, but is magic really necessary to become a healer? Because seeing what she did to you, the gesture making you do things, I don't want that for me.
Yagra's magic is probably a little more powerful than anything you'll learn, lass. It's not necessary. I myself do not have magic. And I'd like to think I make an adequate healer, but I have to come to people like Yagra when people are truly sick. Magic will allow you to help in ways that you can't do otherwise, especially the divine arts. It's more natural. It's a call to God to help those who are worthy. It allows you to bring peace to people. It allows you to soothe their pain, but also to close their wounds with only the gesture of a hand. Whilst this power might seem intimidating, it is the best way to allow yourself to do good. I wasn't suitable, but I think you will be. I certainly will be jealous. I always wanted to be able to heal with magic.
I definitely feel like Natasha wants to ask, but she also doesn't want to, like... Her face is... You can see her face is a bit bittersweet right now. Because she's feeling for him, but she doesn't want to prod anymore because she feels like it'll hurt his feelings to talk about it.
We'll roll an insight check. Ooh. Yeah, he seems to be reading your mind at that point. He looks at you, and it's not that I wasn't the right sort of person, it's that I'd already followed an art that took me in a different direction. My father was a monk, and he showed me some of the ways of healing with pressure points and touches, and once I'd been trained that way, I wasn't much used to the healer's guilds. Following two different arts is, well, it's the worst of both worlds.
It might not be much help, but I think you're a great healer, Baron. I mean, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here.
Thank you, but, you know, some of us envy the mighty clerics of old. It's an opportunity I wouldn't turn down if I was you. Anyway, best be on the road, otherwise we won't make it to Harbondon by dawn. On the journey, a couple of hours down the road, you see a satyr standing by the road, playing a large, sort of unusual-looking harp. He calls over to you, but immediately, Baron speeds up the wagon. An hour later down the road, the rest of the wagons catch up with you. You were sensible to speed off, Baron. He was a thief. Sorry, I should have warned you all. Yagra gave us word. No problem, no problem. Just another sign of her foresight. But as night falls and you all camp by the road, the guards of the carts will watch the road as you are able to settle in. The following morning, you are able. To approach Harbondon. Give me a second. Come on, just go small. There we go. Thank you. Small map. And as the cart approaches Harbondon, Baron slows it down. You can tell there's almost a reverence in his eyes. A real sort of lust for the city. He leans over to you. I could never live here, but I always like coming. We'll go straight into the city proper if that's okay. You don't need to stop by the smaller markets or anything, do you?
No, not really. I'm just thankful to be here. It's a nice place, Harbondon.
Wow. Depends which side of the city you are, but yes, there are good parts. And as he leads you through the gate, he will lead you over to the Moonlight Gate stables, or the Mist Gate stables. And once you're there, he sort of hands over the cart. Thank you, please. And he sort of just gestures to the boy to take the cart. He takes the golden liquid bottle and He leads you over to the Merchant's Boardwalk, which is the second right. Sort of halfway down, you see a shop with a sort of silver filigreed image of a bow. He opens up the shop, and you see that this shop seems to sell nothing but bows and arrows. Engar! Bring a package from the Lady Yagra. You see a man he's sort of got droopy eyes. It's fairly early in the morning at this point. It's sort of 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning. He looks like he's nursing a hangover. He's got a sort of bit of a shadow of a beard on his chin. He looks unkempt, unshaven. Looks up. Thank you. I'm sorry, your name's gone. You're the Sandringham healer, right? Baron. Yes, I've been visiting you for 20 years. Well, anyway. And he passes the bottle over, and Yagra says it would do you better to give up the drink. And Goss sort of smiles wryly. Get rid of my wife, I'll give up the drink. He takes the bottle and... Assuming you don't need anything. Baron sort of looks at him if he's a madman. Like, why would I need a bow and arrow? And gestures for you to come with him. And as you're walking out, Engar's a bitter man. He's not treated very well by his wife, he married up above his station and regretted it ever since. Come, let's take you somewhere more pleasant.
He married up?
Married to a woman of a higher station than he. He thought he was joining a noble family. Do that? Yeah, he married into a noble family. She fell in love with him, and he with her, but she was used to having everything. Now he can't provide it. It's not good.
Maybe she should start working as well.
That'll be the day.
That would fix it.
I like your views on the world sometimes. Come, we're going somewhere a little more dangerous.
This is probably the first time she actually shared an opinion with Baron, and this is after like 2 days of travel.
That's absolutely fine. He sort of gestures for you to come, and he leads you down Fernham Avenue, and he says, we're going to be heading into the poorer parts of town. Keep your cloak tight about you. Watch your pockets, and watch where your step is. And don't stare at anyone. He leads you to the end of Fernham Avenue, and you see squalid houses. Although Sandringham is a quiet village, it's not run down. It's well kept. People have enough money to go around. No one's starving, no one's poor. And if they were, they'd be given shelter and food. But here in the streets, you see children missing limbs, sitting down on the edge of the road begging. You see a woman, sort of blind hag, calling out, a penny for the poor, penny for the poor. But as soon as the richer-looking gentleman who walks past her disappears, she removes the rag from over her eyes and carries on with what she was doing. You see poverty here, but you also see illness. You see destitute people who have nothing. And cruelty, as people walk past and ignore them. Baron pulls you a little tighter and leads you to the south part of Pauper's district, down Broad Street, to the Temple of Lathander. The Temple of Lathander is quite a humble building. It's got a green tile roof, and it's made of white brick, whitewashed brick. And he leads you up to the door, which is open. You get the impression that the temple is always open. And you see a woman shortly inside who sort of nods to you immediately. She's got greying hair, but she's probably in her mid-30s. She's got soft blue eyes and an easy smile, and she looked at you. Ah, Master Baron in a temple. Somebody paint a picture. Well, welcome in. What can I do for you? He looks over to her, and I bring you a, well, I won't say apprentice, I bring you a young woman from Sandringham who has an interest in the healing arts. She delivered a child yesterday, on her own. This is Natasha. Natasha, this is Penelope. She heads the temple here at Lathander. I'm going to wait outside. Penelope will show you around. And he leaves. She looks at you expectantly and gives you a smile.
I'll smile back.
What would you like to see?
I've only read about Lathander before, so is he here?
He's everywhere, child. He's in the hearts of those who believe in him. He's in the wounds that we heal every day. He's in the peace and prosperity and the light of the sun. But he's only everywhere if you believe. I believe. It brings me peace and joy to believe that Lathander is always watching over us. But even if you don't believe, you have to believe in the good he can bring. Come, I'll show you first to the sick rooms. They'll probably interest you the most.
Follow her.
And she leads you to downstairs, to an area that's clearly built into the underground. It reminds you a little bit of a crypt. It's very dark down here, but there are lanterns on the wall, and in the first room she leads you to a man who... he's dressed in rags, but his boots are at the edge of the sort of, I would say bed, but these are sort of wooden slabs with sort of blankets on. They clearly don't have much money, the temple, but what they have goes into these rooms. She comes over to the man and she lays her hands on the bottom of his legs. You see that he's in pain. There are sores all the way down his legs, open sores. And as she places her hands on them, they begin to close. And bits of skin grow over. Fresh skin. You see the pain soothe in his eyes, and she looks at you. This here is Oleg. Oleg has a disease, a wasting disease. He comes each day for healing on his legs. We can't cure the disease, but we can keep his pain away. Thank you, Penelope. I'll see you tomorrow. And he puts his boots on with a little bit of pain, and he heads on upstairs. She leads you to the next room. You see a woman holding a child on her lap. She looks over. Oh, Isla, you're back. How's the boy? He looks up. Samuel, are you sick again? And she puts her fingers under his chin either side. She places her hand over his chest. You see as the boy, she sort of looks over the boy's head at the woman, and she just sort of shakes her head. We'll give you another remedy. And you see her sort of walk over to an area where she gets out a cup, and she pours what appears to be water into it. And you see her take from her pouch what appears to be sugar. It's just sugar crystals, and she pours it in and stirs it round. She takes him the sugared water. Here you are, drink up. It'll keep you nice and well. And he drinks up. And... Stay away, Samuel. Stay. Get better. Be well. Take some rest. I'll see you again soon. She nods at Isla. Isla leads her son upstairs. The boy's got a sickness in his mind. But he thinks that this helps. So, this is what we do for him. One day, maybe, his mother will be able to afford to take him to one of the larger temples, where they can help him with the sickness in his mind. He sees things he fears and he doesn't sleep well. But for now, this is what I can do, so that's what I do. And she leads you into the third and final room. And you see a man laid upon the bed with his arm is laid open. I mean, it's a serious wound. There is blood gushing everywhere. There are bones sort of cracked. And she, oh goodness! Nobody told me they brought you in? And he looks up. I brought myself in, and I came down here to wait. Goodness, man, you're an idiot! Should have come straight to me. Look at the state of this. Is this a sword wound? Looks at you. Yes, ma'am. It is. Please, anything you can do for the pain. Well, we'll do more than that. Come now, you can help me. Natasha, right?
Yeah.
There's some bandages over there. Please, some bandages and some water, some hot water from the kettle over the fire.
Yeah, I'll just grab it.
She takes the bandages and she begins to sort of lift his hand up and put the bandages underneath, and she's cleaning at the wound. We must always clean a wound before closing it. Very important. We don't want to risk giving an infection. Once she's been very thoroughly cleaned it all out, she places her hands into the blood and gory open wound. And what you see is the bone begin to knit back together. I'm not much good with sicknesses or diseases, but bones and cuts, it's my speciality. And then she runs her hand over his skin and it begins to knit itself back together. How did you get your wound? I tried to stop a thief, ma'am. And, are you a guard? She says, no, I live up on Grispet Alley. Up in the Paupers District, but somebody tried to steal a woman's purse. I got in the way. I did what was right. She smiles. And this is what she got for it. I bet she's still got her purse, though, hasn't she? The man looks back, and she has. Thank you, Penelope. The work you do here is good. She gives him a strange look. I don't believe I know you, sir. No, ma'am, you don't. But you do know my wife. Her name's Renette. Oh. I see you're as kind as your wife. As honourable. She turns to you. Renette comes and cleans here every day. She volunteers. We don't have any money to pay her. And sometimes she brings us bread she bakes freshly. To give out to those who need it most. Well, you must be Gregor then. Please, look after yourself. She gestures for him to take a... She puts a little bandage over, but it's pretty unnecessary. And she gestures for him to take a hot cup of tea as she leads him up the stairs. So? You don't speak much, Natasha, do you?
I don't usually have lots of people to talk to.
Talking's important in the healers industry. You've got to be confident. You've got to believe in what you're doing and believe that you know best. Even when you don't.
I'm confident when people ask me for things. I'm good at, serving and providing, just not good at chit-chat.
Pays to be assertive sometimes. Come, I'll take you to the peace rooms. And she leads you up the stairs and to what is a fairly humble and small altar in a slightly closed space. And you can see that there is one thing in here that is expensive. There's a large freestanding stained glass that depicts an image of a man with light from his hands bringing a child out from the ground almost, it seems, like he's lifting it up. She notices your look and, yes, it is expensive, but it was a donation. We've considered selling it to, fund various help for the Paupers District, but part of me can't bear to part with it, and part of me wonders if the money would just be stolen. Anyway, this is where we come to say our prayers and thanks. It is also where new healers take their oaths. You don't have to swear an oath to Lathander. Many healers swear only an oath to do what's right. Do you think you're ready for such a commitment? To help those in need and do what's right?
I know in my heart that I want to help others. I just don't like the power that comes with it.
You don't have to fear there. The power comes very slowly and only to those that do the right thing. Which I think might be you, but only time will tell. It's minor power at first. I'll tell you the oath. I, and your name, swear to Lathander and by all the gods and goddesses, making them my witnesses, that I will carry out, according to my ability and judgment, this oath and indenture. I swear firstly to do no harm, wherever possible, and secondly, in whatsoever houses I enter, I will enter to help the sick, and will abstain from any intentional wrongdoing, or from abusing the bodies of man or woman, bond or free. And whereso I can, I will do my best to heal those that I meet that are in need. It's a gentle oath, and one I live by every day. You can go 20 years without healing a soul. You could go 100 years without speaking the name of the Thunder. I think you'd still live by the oath, Natasha.
Why did I come?
It was a ventriloquist act, that one, wasn't it? I fucking blew my mind. I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't hear that, and I was like, I suddenly realised it wasn't coming from your face. I'm sorry.
Me holding and like taking so long to think about it is actually what Natasha is doing. She's just
Yeah, I
kind of
gathered.
like
Bruno very much wants his subclass. Natasha is not so sure.
okay. Just so I'm not quiet, to give you a bit of like an introspection on what she's.
Yeah, I'd
thinking
love to
right
know
now.
exactly what's going on in her mind right now.
Her whole life, she's been brought up to become an innkeeper. Her whole life, she was told like, you're gonna grow up, you're gonna take over the inn, you're gonna, continue to support the town, be a beacon for the community. And then, one day she saw that she could do more, that her life didn't just have to be all that it had to be. And I think since then, that kind of always stuck with her. And now that it is literally right in front of her, it's like that possibility is becoming real. So it's so overwhelming for her to just, even be able to say yes. I think she's literally frozen because, that's how I am. Like, I don't know if she would actually accept it and go through with it, because it's so much like she wants to do it, but at the same time she's got herself saying she shouldn't do it, she's got her family saying she shouldn't do it, so it is so much.
No, I think that's fair. And as you stand there and ponder, you do hear a dry, sarcastic voice in your head. Don't be a disappointment. Get on with it. You hear Yagra's voice, and it's sort of something it's you piece it together yourself. It's not her speaking into your mind, but it's sort of just a remnant of her visit yesterday.
Oh, okay, because she was about to
She's
scream.
not just messaging you via, but it's that sort of, she told you that you would be a disappointment, and her sarcastic wit has driven many to do the right thing. Perhaps it'll drive Natasha.
Quite hard, because like she doesn't feel like she needs to prove anything to Yagra. Like,
no, of course not. Yagra just wants
she's
to
literally
push
she's
you
like,
into it.
it's such a divide. Like, she will look at the window and you can see her like there is conflict in her face, and she's kind of feeling a bit guilty because she's making Penelope have to wait so long while she's having like this inner
And
conflict.
yet, as you look up at Penelope, you see that she would happily wait another 10 hours. She's very peaceful and patient here, as she looks to the stained glass window of Lathander.
Penelope, may I ask you a question?
Of course.
Have you always been a healer?
No. I started off as a farmer's daughter and thought I would be a farmer. I was raised to look after chickens, and cows and pigs and sheep. It's where I first learned I had the inclination. We had a sick cow. What was her name? Clarice. She died at a respectable age, but she died in pain. And after that, I never really wanted to look after the animals. I didn't want to see their pain. My father knew something was a little wrong with me, but we never really figured what, and it was only when he got ill. I was 19, 20. The healer came by every day to look after him. At first I watched, and then I listened and watched. And eventually, I realized that I wanted to do what was right. For 6 years, I lived with my father. I took my oath, but I stayed there. I looked after the chickens, the cows, and the occasional person that came round with a painful arm or a little minor sickness. Well, got around that I had a little bit of the healing art, but it wasn't until I was 27 that I came to the city. And even then, I started off as just a helper, an assistant in a big temple. And they sent me to create a new temple of Lathander here at Arbondon, only 3 years ago. We were given a large plot of land up by the noble quarter, but I didn't see much reason to put ourselves there with Saloon's temple and many others. So I came and built it here in the Paupers district. People said I was mad, said I'd be robbed, said I'd be harmed. Do you know what? Not one person has raised a finger to me. I've seen hardened criminals and nasty men come in here and drop off bread for the poor. The work we do here is good. But no, I was no healer at first. Just a farmer's girl. Is that what you're doubting? Whether you're important enough, whether it's right for you?
I think her face definitely shifts after listening to her story. And she can pinpoint exactly when it shifts, and when she's talking about how even the nastiest of men come and help. I think that's when she says, I think I've made my decision, Penelope. I'm ready to take the oath.
Good.
So she'll raise her hand and she'll say,
it's not quite done like that, if I might show you.
Oh.
And she
literally sort of, the most peasant,
it was very much a heartfelt thing. And she sort of she looks at you, and it's not an oath you make out loud, nor is it an oath you make to me or to anyone else. Here. And she takes out, and you know this to be incredibly expensive. It's a piece of parchment preserved in glass. And it states the oath on it. No oath. It says you read this to yourself and say the words in your head, and either to Lathander or to a god of your choosing, though I would say, child, if you wish to make it to a god that isn't Lathander, I probably wouldn't do it in his temple. She gives you a wink. It's an oath you make in your heart to your god. It is not to prove anything to anyone. She hands you the preserved paper, and she steps gently backwards, and then you just hear her as the door closes and leaves you in the room at peace on your own.
I'll kind of stare at it for a while. I actually wrote the oath down, if you want me to say it.
No, not at all. That was incredible typing, though, or writing skill. No, not at all.
I know the oath starts swearing to Lathander, and she knows that as well. But she's going to mutter something different. She's going to say, I promise on myself and on my life that I swear to do no harm, and continue that. And then she will end the oath with, and if a god chooses to aid me in my path, I shall accept this aid.
At this moment, just over the shoulder of Lathander in the stained glass, you see the sun come out from behind the cloud and shine down through the window. But that's all. Possible coincidence. Maybe a response.
I think she'll do exactly what I did, which is just look up at the glass and smile for the first time in 4 days. She will actually smile. And probably the only smile you'll ever get from Natasha in the whole campaign.
And after about 10 or 15 minutes, you hear a very gentle tap on the door.
Yes.
The door opens and Penelope stood there, and I thought you might want to come and help with one other thing before you leave. If you're ready, that is.
Oh, of course. Should I grab this and hand it to you? Should I leave it here?
She gestures towards the sort of inlaid book that it was in. So it's quite a clever disguise. It looks like a sort of tattered book on the altar, and as you open it, it's just got a slot for the preserved of. And then she sort of closes it again.
These clerics are clever.
She's not stupid. She doesn't leave that out. And she leads you down to the healing rooms again. And she gestures for you to stay quiet. She opens the door very gently. And inside you see Baron, tending to an older woman who seems to be having muscular pain. And he's placing his hands in certain places on her back and shoulder. That man is more of Lathander than anyone I've ever met. But as he can't use the divine arts, he says he doesn't believe. He has a shrine to Lathander in his living room. A friend of mine has seen it. But he uses the monk ways. They're no less effective. Just remember on your travels not to disparage anybody who chooses a different way to serve or to help others. And don't disparage yourself either. What you do is good and right. It's been good to meet you, Natasha. I hope you visit again.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me and for everything.
And with that, we shall leave off. You may now take your subclass, by the way. I'm glad you did swear the oath, because if you didn't, I don't know what subclass you would have ended up with. Level 12 and you just be cleric, you know?
Cleric of war.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not going to necessarily go for MVPs, but did you have any particular highlights that you enjoyed?
I think I was the MVP.
Of course.
No, I felt very immersed. I particularly liked Baron. Sounds very attractive. Definitely Natasha's gonna get in on that.
You think Baron's attractive?
She has daddy issues, clearly.
Okay, yeah, he's in his late 50s and he's a greying monk. That's
perfect. I love a grey
absolutely
fox.
fine.
I bet he's got like some massive abs as well.
I will find a picture somewhere.
He gotta be so hot because if he's a monk,
no abs.
Come on.
He's a little flabby.
I did like. I liked the difference, and like the people from the village were quite, open, stoic about everything, and then you come into the town and everyone could really feel the weight of the different settings.
Mm-hmm.
And I particularly enjoyed the fact that I had so many different decisions to make in the first episode that actually, it really helped me develop Natasha and kind of see who she's going to be. Because now I know exactly who she's going to be. It takes a session to actually...
Yeah, sometimes you don't know what it's going to feel like, do you?
Until you play it, yeah. So I'm really happy that I know exactly who she is now. So yeah.
I'm not going to lie, I toyed with Yagra. Yagra's a character that is going to feature largely in the campaign. I'll tell you that for free. I nearly took Jamal to see her as Kiava. Because obviously he's following the potions route. But I decided against it, waiting for the group. But I just felt like maybe Natasha needed an extra bit of inspiration before visiting the temple. Maybe to see somebody who was a bit more assertive and a bit more... I don't know really how to describe it. Yagra's quite mystical and quite grumpy.
Ironically, it had the opposite effect because she was completely put off.
Yeah, which... No, I think in some ways that is not a bad thing. I don't think Yagra was what was going to motivate her. I think seeing the contrast between Yagra and Penelope is what I'd hoped would motivate her. Motivate.
Yeah.
Because Penelope's gentleness might not have been as interesting if you hadn't seen Yagra's harshness. In the grand scheme of things, I think Yagra probably does more good for the world, but Penelope's got a gentle way of doing it, which is probably a little better. But yeah, it was a real pleasure to be able to introduce you to some of the more important characters in terms of Yagra. And just drop a few hints here and there of other stuff as well.
The crazy child with demons in his head.
Well, yeah, sure. I was more thinking of the visit to the Bowyers, to Engars, which may have seemed completely unnecessary because all you did was stop in, give him a potion and leave. But yeah, just little droplets little droplets that are filtering through.
Well, I do
I'm-
have the ceremony spell if he wants to get remarried.
Yes, the ceremony of divorce is well up his street right now. But he's managed for 20 years. I'm sure he'll manage for a few more.
Oh, wait, I actually think I can divorce someone.
You can. Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
divorce him.
That's that'll be an interesting one.
First session, divorce.
Yeah. However, yeah, no, I had fun. I also like Natasha. I like seeing her develop over the course of the session. Sort of, if you don't mind me saying, she started off a little more Bruno and a little less Natasha, and then because you had to fill the gaps, right? You didn't know quite what to do, and I sort of left you with a berth and just went, have at it. And then sort of as we go through, seeing more things, I'm glad you sort of rolled with my portrayal of your parents. It's not necessarily that they don't want to help or support. It's just, it's not their thing. And also, you've definitely just had a woman give birth in the middle of the inn floor. I don't know if that's any good for business.
I also think as well, like at the beginning, because she was at home, she's way more comfortable, like speaking and talking. Like when she was traveling, she's quite more reserved and scared.
Of course, but I guess more near the end where her opinions started coming out with Natasha and stuff, with Penelope and stuff. That's more where I was thinking that like we were beginning to see, like you said, Natasha was forming in full, and that was lovely. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
It was fun.
So good. Well, 4 down, 1 to go.
And I can heal now. I'm not useless anymore. I can heal like once a day.
Can you? How
I
you
can
heal?
because Life Cleric gains cure wounds as part of the subclass. No, okay.
No, you just got the subclass. You haven't got any spells. I mean, you can't remove it, but as yet, you will need a little lesson before that one works.
I'm gonna just write no on the spell.
Yeah, I think you get cure wounds and bless. Is that correct?
I got cure wounds. I got Abraham's firefly thing.
What?
Yeah, I got that.
Did that just automatically go in your?
Yeah, it literally went in automatically. I got manipulate life as well. That just appeared automatically. And I got cure wounds that appeared automatically.
I don't even know what manipulate life is.
Neither do I.
I know what the fireflies is, and I don't know why that would just automatically turn up.
It literally just filled up.
How bizarre! Isn't that
bizarre
exciting? Well, we'll play with that out of session, won't we? Yeah. Even so, no, I'm very much looking forward to our full session on Sunday.
Yeah.
Tonight we're not going to do Urxos. I've put a lot into Beldania. It sort of knocked me for 6. We have another session tonight before Urxos, effectively. So instead, there will be the final one of our pre-session sessions tonight, with Jodai playing Hennick Littlefield. And then on Sunday morning, we will proceed with Beldania proper. I can't wait.
Where Natasha still won't be smiling because it's going to be a Sunday morning.
However, if you would like to say goodbye, I think we shall end there.
Goodbye, my little clericlings.
See you soon.
Tan Natasha.